I am satisfied that you are suffering from a mental disorder, namely paranoid schizophrenia. This disorder is of a nature which makes it appropriate for you to be detained in a hospital for medical treatment. And appropriate medical treatment is available for you at Ashworth Secure Hospital. I am of the opinion that because of all the circumstances of your case, including the nature of the offences to which you pleaded guilty and the history of mental illness, and having considered all the other available ways in which I might deal with you, the most suitable method of dealing with your case is by making an order under Section 37 of the Mental Health Act 1983. I therefore make an order under all 6 counts of the indictment that you will be readmitted to and detained at Ashworth High Security Hospital. I've also considered whether this order should be subject to special restrictions, which are specified in Section 41 of the Act. In the light of the medical evidence which I have identified, I am satisfied that because of the nature of your offence, and also having regard to your past, including your history of mental illness, and to the risk that you will commit further offences if you're not detained, it's necessary to protect the public from serious harm, and it is not possible to say for how long that will be so. Accordingly, I order that you will be subject to the special restrictions set out in Section 41 of the Mental Health Act 1983. You may take him down.
At the beginning of his sentencing remarks, Mr. Justice Turner talked about this as being a sickening crime which had shocked the nation and, he said, wrecked the life of the surviving victims and the families. And he went through all of those who've been most affected by this. He named every member of the families of all of those who'd been affected. Let's have a look at the background to this case. Navtez Johal reports.
This is the moment Valdo Calocane, a killer who caused carnage on the streets of Nottingham, was caught. An hour and a half earlier, CCTV footage shows his first 2 victims, Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar, 19-year-old students walking back from a night out, unaware that they will never make it home. The night before, Calocane, who's 32, arrives back late in Nottingham by train from London. He walks around the city for several hours before his attacks begin at 4 in the morning.
Emergency, what's the emergency?
Yes, there's been a stabbing on Wilkinson Road. There's somebody lying in the street. I think they're dead. Oh, that was awful.
He emerged from the alleyway and without any sort of warning whatsoever, he launched an attack on Barnaby to begin with. Incredible bravery that Grace showed. She tried to intervene, she tried to help a friend, she tried to help Barnaby. And the defendant then turned on her and began stabbing at her.
Calocane then walks across the city. He tries to break into a building housing vulnerable adults but is pushed off by a resident. Meanwhile, 65-year-old school caretaker Ian Coates is in his van on his way to work.
The defendant causes Ian to stop in his van and, again, seemingly without any sort of warning or any sort of conversation, he attacks Ian and he launches, an equally ferocious attack on him.
Calocane then drives Ian Coates' van towards the city centre and hits 3 pedestrians. They were Wayne Burkitt, Marcin Gawronski and Sharon Miller. They were all injured but survived. Minutes later, the van is tracked down and the killer is arrested. Calocane pleaded guilty to 3 counts of manslaughter on the basis of diminished responsibility and guilty to 3 counts of attempted murder. The court heard he has had a history of mental illness, was in and out of hospital since 2020 and has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. But Grace O'Malley Kumar's family and Ian Coates' family have told the BBC they believe he should have been tried for murder.
Is calculated, premeditated, and therefore it should be murder.
This person picked his victims, and it is absolutely abhorrent, I think, that he has been able to have a defence of diminished responsibility.
Nothing's been missed that would have made any difference whatsoever. It's really, really difficult when something like this happens to think that the outcome might be manslaughter and not murder. That's a debate that will rage on forever. But the law's just really clear, and with the evidence provided by the psychiatrist in this case, then that makes it manslaughter and not murder.
However, the police have admitted that more should have been done to arrest Calocane prior to the stabbings. A warrant was issued after he failed to attend court in September 2022 over an alleged assault on a police officer, but he was never arrested. Calocane was also known to mental health services in Nottingham and had been sectioned 4 times. This incident, which affected thousands of people, represents one of the darkest days in the history of Nottingham. But for the families of the victims, their pain will last for the rest of their lives. Navtej Johal, BBC News.